Each of us faces moments when life presents us with difficult choices. But what if one wrong step can change your entire destiny? This story is about how one mistake led to consequences I could never have imagined.
Eugene, enough already.
Angela sensed something was wrong when her husband asked for the third time what drinks to buy for Sunday lunch. In 25 years of life together, he had never once shown such attention to the choice of what he drinks.
Take whatever you want, as long as it's red and dry.
But Danila said that Victoria prefers white.
Her husband sounded unfamiliar, ingratiating notes in his voice. Angela froze at the stove. Something scratched in his intonation, in that special warmth with which he pronounced the name of the future guest. She turned slowly to her husband.
Since when do we adjust to someone else's preferences? This is a family dinner, not a social gathering.
Eugene shrugged his shoulders and stared at his phone. Angela returned to the borscht, but anxiety was already nestling somewhere under her spine. She glanced at her husband. He was sitting unusually straight, as if he had swallowed a rifle, and with exaggerated attention was leafing through the news feed.
Mom, Dad, we're here!
The door slammed in the hallway. Angela wiped her hands and hurried into the hallway. All the family was already crowding there. Lisa with her sociology textbook under her arm, Misha in his favorite t-shirt with a skyscraper print, and Danila, tall, trim, so much like his father in his youth, and next to him, her. The first thing that caught the eye was her unnaturally straight back and high chin. It was as if the girl had not come to visit but to walk the runway. Her blonde hair was styled hair to hair, her makeup was flawless, and her smile was rehearsed to perfection.
Hello, I'm Victoria.
Nice to meet you. Come in, we're just about to have lunch.
She caught her husband's gaze. He was looking at her with a strange expression, something like admiration, something like... Angela shook her head, pushing the unwelcome thoughts away. At the table, Victoria held herself impeccably. Her back was straight, her elbows not on the table, her napkin on her lap, except for her eyes. Angela couldn't get rid of the feeling that the girl's gaze was constantly sliding around, as if assessing the situation.
Amazing borscht. You probably spend a lot of time cooking, don't you?
Our mom is a real magician. Do you know what strudel she bakes?
Really? But I can't cook at all. I have no time, work, career.
But you know a lot about investments. Can you imagine she's already in charge of 3 major projects?
Wow, and how are you doing?
Everything is going according to plan. You know, the main thing in our business is to assess the prospects correctly.
Something flashed between them, a short glance, a barely noticeable pause. Angela felt her insides tighten. After lunch, the young people moved to the living room. Eugene volunteered to help with the dishes.
What a nice girl and such a clever girl. Danka is a good boy, that he didn't give himself away for empty.
Angela was silent. For some reason, she remembered their first family dinner, then in a tiny rented apartment. Zhenya also helped her with the dishes, but in a completely different way. Now and then he hugged her, kissed her neck, interfered with her work. The days went on as usual, but something subtly changed. Eugene began to stay late at work more often. 3 times he canceled their traditional Saturday trips to the theater. And most importantly, he was always talking about Victoria.
Can you imagine? She had already signed a contract for her project at the age of 23.
How do you know?
Oh, just so, Danka told me.
But Danila, when she cautiously questioned him, only shrugged his shoulders.
I don't remember that, Mom. Maybe she told Dad herself. They often cross paths in the office. We have a joint project with his company.
Phone calls have become different. Her husband used to always answer in front of her, but now he often went into another room. One day, she overheard a fragment of conversation.
Of course, dear. I mean, dear Victoria Andreevna. Yes, tomorrow at 2, as agreed.
Her heart skipped a beat. Angela froze at the bedroom door, gripping the door jamb. Her head was buzzing.
Showing just work stuff.
But the worm of doubt grew stronger and stronger. Eugene seemed to be drifting away, looking less and less into her eyes, touching her less and less. Even sitting next to her on the couch felt like an invisible wall. And then something happened that shattered the last illusions.
Her temples were pounding from lack of sleep, but her brain refused to shut down. Angela woke up before dawn and sat in the kitchen for hours, replaying the events of the past weeks in her head. The next days were filled with grayness and worry. Angela didn't know that yet.
But how?
For her family, for her husband, for her happiness, she would fight. And then, looking at her reflection in the fogged mirror, she suddenly realized, no, she would not let some high bump destroy what she had been building for a quarter of a century. At home, she stood under the shower for a long time, as if trying to wash away what she had seen. She slowly wandered away, feeling her trustworthy, correct world crumbling. The purchases rolled along the sidewalk, but Angela didn't even notice it. The packages slipped out of her weakened fingers, and Eugene was looking at her with that special look that used to be reserved for his wife. Through the glass, she saw Victoria saying something fervently, tapping her manicured finger on some paper. But at the door, Angela stopped. Her legs carried her to the entrance of the cafe, and opposite him was Victoria, leaning so close that their faces were almost touching. Eugene was sitting at a table in the back of the room, elegant, trim, in his favorite grey suit. Angela was returning from the store when she noticed a familiar figure in the window of the cafe.
Mom, why are you in the dark?
Where are you going this early? Ah, daughter, I can't sleep.
You're something different. Mom, what's going on? To a sociology conference?
We have an important meeting with investors. Eugene came down for breakfast, unusually dressed up. In a new suit, he smelled of expensive perfume. God, how hard it is to lie to one's own children. I'm just a little tired. Everything's fine, honey.
Business doesn't know the weekend.
Listen, do you have some important meeting today? Danechka, hi. Then she took out her cell phone and dialed her son's number. Angela stared at the closed door for a long time.
Although, Vika said something about an unscheduled meeting with the chief. It's our day off. What meeting, Mom?
So, what's going on with her?
And yesterday, he's always talking to his bosses at work, barely talks to me. Vika's been different lately. You know, Mom, everything is strange.
Yesterday what?
But what kind of documents at 6 p.m. when everyone's gone home? She said she was looking for files. When she saw me, she almost dropped the file. She was looking for something in his desk. It's just, I caught her in the chief's office. Oh, it was nothing, I guess.
In the evening, Lisa called, excited, out of breath. So she wasn't the only one who found it strange. Angela closed her eyes.
Mom, don't worry, but I seem to have accidentally learned something.
What is it?
And you know what? I think that man is working with Danila. And then he kissed her. They were cooing so sweetly. And there sat this Victoria, with a man. I went to Espresso today, you know, at that cafe near my institute.
Are you sure?
And also, they talked about some old man. Absolutely. I saw him at the corporate party when I went to pick up Danka.
What did they say?
I couldn't hear everything, but she said something like, the old man has lost his head. 1 more month and you can take him warm.
At that moment, the door slammed in the hallway. Angela hurriedly said goodbye to her daughter and looked out of the kitchen. Eugene, humming something to himself, was taking off his shoes in the hallway. How was the meeting?
Huh? Yes, everything went great.
Were there a lot of investors there?
Enough!
Was Victoria there too?
What does Victoria have to do with it?
I don't know. She just seemed to be too busy at Espresso's today, with your mutual acquaintance.
What do you mean?
That this girlfriend of Danila's, well, or your protege is having an affair with Danila's co-worker, and she's hitting on you at the same time. And by the looks of it, not without success.
What nonsense. Are you crazy?
No, honey, it's you crazy. Can't you see? She's just using you, just like everybody else.
Mom's right, Dad.
They turned around. Danila stood in the doorway, pale with a distorted face.
I know everything. About your meetings, about the way you look at her, and that she's sleeping with my boss. I know too.
Danka?
Don't touch me, how could you? You're my father. You're my father.
Wait,
On the threshold appeared Lisa. Behind her loomed anxious Misha.
let's discuss everything calmly.
What is there to discuss? Everything is clear. This just decided to play big, to twist her daddy's arm around a richer man, and at the same time with the bosses, for insurance.
Eugene sank heavily on the banquette. His shoulders slumped. He suddenly aged 10 years at once.
Lord, what have I done? How could I? Angela, darling, forgive me. Children, forgive me. I don't know what came over me. It's like she's bewitched me.
Angela looked at her husband in silence. 25 years of life together. 3 beautiful children, so much together. Could it really end like this?
Dad, and you, do you love Mom?
More than life, always loved, but it's all fogged up, you know, like an obsession.
Well, wake up.
You're strong. You've always been an example for us. Are you really going to let some con artist ruin everything?
Eugene stood up, straightened his shoulders, straightened his chest. The same steely glint of steel appeared in his eyes.
No, I won't allow it. I'm sorry, darling. I was a complete idiot, but I swear, never again.
You know you'll have to work very hard to regain my trust, don't you?
I know. Do you want me to peel the potatoes? And let's marinate the meat for dinner, shall we?
Then start right away. The children delicately walked out, leaving them alone.
And Victoria, well, she got what she deserved. Danila told the whole truth to the bosses and she was fired, without references and severance pay. They say she tried to get a job at another company, but who would hire an adventurer with a tarnished reputation? But Angela didn't care about that anymore. She had more important things to worry about, bringing harmony back into her family, healing her wounds, learning to trust again.